12. Page 3 stunner. And the witch still made me do litter duty, said Joe. He was sitting with his dad at the end of the highly polished 1,000-seater dining room table waiting for his dinner. Impossibly large diamond candelabras hung overhead. Paintings that weren't very nice but cost millions of pounds adorned the walls. Even after I dropped your homework off in the chopper, said Mr. Spud angrily. Yeah, it was so unfair, replied Joe. I did not invent a double-sided moist/dry toilet tissue for my son to be put on litter duty. I know, said Joe. That Miss Spite is such a cow. I'm going to fly to school tomorrow and give that teacher of yours a piece of my mind. Please don't, Dad. It will be embarrassing enough when he turned up today. Sorry, son, said Mr. Spud. He looked a little hurt, which made Joe feel guilty. Just trying to help. Joe sighed. Just don't do it again. Dad, it's awful. Everyone knowing I'm the son of a bum-fresh man. Well, I can't help that, boy. That's how I made all this money. That's why we're living in this big house. Yeah, I guess, said Joe. Just don't come turning up in your bum air helicopter or anything, okay? Okay, said Mr. Spud. So, how's that friend of yours working out? Bob? He's really not my friend anymore, replied Joe. He hung his head a little. Why's that? asked Mr. Spud. I thought you and him were getting on really well. I paid off these bullies to help him, said Joe. They were making his life a misery, so I gave them some cash to leave him alone. Yeah? So? Well, he found out, and then, get this, he got all upset and called me a spoiled brat. Why? How do I know? He said he'd rather get bullied than have to have me help him. Mr. Spud shook his head in disbelief. Bob sounds a bit of a fool to me. The thing is, when you've got money like we do, you meet a lot of ungrateful people. I reckon you're better off without this Bob character. Sounds like he doesn't understand the importance of money. If he wants to be miserable, let him. Yeah, agreed Joe. You'll make another friend at school, son, said Mr. Spud. You're rich. People like that. The sensible ones, anyway. Not on this idiot Bob. I'm not so sure, said Joe. Not now everyone knows who I am. You will, Joe. Trust me, said Mr. Spud with a smile. The immaculately attired butler entered the dining room through the vast oak-panelled double doors. He did a little theatrical cough to get his master's attention. Miss Sapphire Stone, gentlemen. Mr. Spud swiftly put on a ginger toupee. His page 3 stunner, Sapphire, clopped into the dining room in her impossibly high heels. Sorry I'm late. I was just at the tanning salon, she announced. This was evident. Sapphire had fake tan smeared over every inch of her skin. She was now orange. As orange as an orange, if not oranger. Thinking of the orangest person you've ever met, then 10 times that orangest by 10. As if she didn't look frightful enough already, she was wearing a lime green mini dress and clutching a shocking pink handbag. What is she doing here? Demanded Joe. Be nice, mouthed Dad. Nice pad, said Sapphire, looking around, admiring all the paintings and the chandeliers. Thank you, it's just one of my 17 homes. Butler, please tell Chef that we want our dinner now. What are we having tonight? Foie gras, sir, replied the butler. What's that? asked Mr. Spud. Specially fattened goose liver, sir. Sapphire grimaced. I'll just have a bag of crisps. Me too, said Joe. And me, said Mr. Spud. 3 packets of potato crisps coming right up, sir, sneered the butler. You look beautiful tonight, my angel, said Mr. Spud, before approaching Sapphire for a kiss. Don't smudge me lip liner, said Sapphire, as she repelled him forcefully with her hand. Mr. Spud was clearly a little hurt, but tried to hide it. Please, take a seat. I brought you the new Dior handbag I sent you. Yeah, but, this bag comes in $8, she complained. 1 for each day of the week. I thought you were going to buy me all 8. I will, my sweet princess, spluttered Mr. Spud. Joe stared at his dad. He couldn't believe he had fallen for such a wrong-un. Dinner is served, announced the butler. Here, my beautiful angel of love, take a seat, said Mr. Spud, as the butler pulled out a chair for her. 3 waiters entered the room carrying silver trays. They carefully placed the plates down on the table. The butler nodded as the waiters lifted the silver covers to reveal 3 packets of salt and vinegar crisps. The trio started eating. Mr. Spud initially attempted to eat his crisps with his knife and fork to appear posh, but soon gave up. Now, me birthday's only 11 months away, said Sapphire, so I made a little wish list of presents you're gonna buy me. Her fingernails were so long and so fake, she could barely fish the piece of paper from her pink handbag. It was like watching one of those grabber machines at the fair, where you never win anything. Eventually, she grabbed it and passed it on to Mr. Spud. Joe looked over his dad's shoulder and read what she had scribbled. Sapphire's birthday wish list. A solid gold Rolls-Royce convertible, £1,000,000 in cash, 500 pairs of Versace sunglasses, a holiday home in Marbella, large, a bucket of diamonds, a unicorn, a box of Ferrero Rocher chocolates, large, a great big, massive, like really big yacht, a large tank of tropical fish. I think she meant tropical fish rather than fish that are up on the news and current affairs. Beverly Hills Chihuahua on DVD. 5,000 bottles of Chanel perfume. Another £1,000,000 in cash. Some gold. Lifetime subscription to OK Magazine. A private jet. New please, not secondhand. A talking dog. General expensive stuff. 100 designer dresses. I don't mind which ones, as long as they're expensive. Anyone's I don't like me, Mum can flog down the market. A pint of semi-skimmed milk, Belgium. You gotta buy me Belgium. Of course, I'll have all these things for you, my angel sent from heaven, slobbered Mr. Spud. Thanks, Ken, said Sapphire, her mouth full of crisps. It's Len, corrected Dad. Oh, sorry, LOL, Len, silly me, she said. You can't be serious, said Joe. You're not really going to buy her all that stuff, are you? Mr. Spud gave Joe an angry look. Why not, son? He said, trying to control his temper. Yeah, why not, you little git? Said Sapphire, definitely not controlling her temper. Joe hesitated for a moment. It's plain to see you're only with my dad for the money. Don't talk to your mother like that, said Mr. Spud. Joe's eyes nearly popped out of his head. She's not my mother. She's your stupid girlfriend. She's only 7 years older than me. How dare you, fumed Mr. Spud. Say sorry. Joe definitely remained silent. I said, say sorry, son, shouted Mr. Spud. No, shouted Joe. Go to your rooms. Joe pushed back his chair, making as much as a clatter as possible, and stomped upstairs, as the staff pretended not to see. He sat on the edge of his bed and cradled himself in his arms. It was a long, long time since anyone had hugged him, so he hugged himself. He squeezed his own sobbing plumpness. He was beginning to wish that Dad had never invented Bumfresh, and that they were all still living in the council flat with Mom. After a few moments, there was a knock on the door. Joe sat in defiant silence. It's your dad. Go away, shouted Joe. Mr. Spud opened the door and sat down next to his son on the bed. He nearly slid off the bedspread onto the floor. Silk sheets may look nice, but they aren't practical. Mr. Spud bum-jumped a little nearer to his son. I don't like seeing my little Spud like this. I know you don't like Sapphire, but she makes me happy. Can you understand that? Not really, said Joe, And I know you had a tough day at school with that teacher, the witch, and with that ungrateful boy, Bob. I'm sorry, I don't know how much you wanted a friend, and I know I didn't make it any easier, and I have a quiet word with Headmaster. Try to sort some things out if I can. Thanks, Dad. Joe sniffed. I'm sorry I was crying. He hesitated for a moment. I do love you, Dad. Ditto, son. Ditto, replied Mr. Spud. Chapter 13. New Girl. The half-term holidays came and went, and when Joe returned to school on the Monday morning, he found he wasn't the centre of attention anymore. There was a new girl at school, and because she was so pretty, everyone was talking about her. When Joe walked into the classroom, there she was, like a gift, a giant unexpected present. So, what's the first lesson today? She asked, as they walked across the playground. Sorry, sputtered Joe. I said, what's the first lesson today? The new girl repeated. I know, it's just, you're really talking to me? Joe couldn't believe it. Yes, I am talking to you, she laughed. I'm Lauren. I know. Joe wasn't sure if the fact that he had remembered her name made him sound suave or like a stalker. What's your name? She asked. Joe smiled. At last, there was someone at the school who knew nothing about him. My name is Joe, he said to Lauren. Joe what? Said Lauren. Joe didn't want her to know that he was a bum-fresh billionaire. Joe Potato. Joe Potato, she asked, more than a little surprised. Yes, stammered Joe. In the moment he had been too overwhelmed by her beauty to be able to come up with a better alternative to Spud. Unusual name. Potato? Said Lauren. Yeah, I suppose it is. It's actually spelt with an E at the end. Joe Potato. So it's not quite the vegetable to potato. I'll be ridiculous. Lauren tried to laugh too, but she was looking at Joe a little oddly. Oh no, thought Joe. I only met this girl 1 minute ago and she already thinks I'm nuts. He quickly tried to change the subject. We've got maths next with Mr. Crunch, he said. Okay. And then we got history with Miss Spite. Oh, I hate history. It's so boring. You'll hate it even more with Miss Spite. She's a good teacher, I suppose, but all of us kids hate her. We call her the witch. That's so funny, said Lauren, giggling. Joe felt 10 feet tall. Bob bobbed into view. Hi, Joe. Oh, hi, Bob, Joe replied. The two former friends hadn't seen each other over half-term. Joe spent his days alone racing around the racetrack in a new Formula One racing car his dad had bought him. And Bob had spent most of the weekend in a bin. Wherever Bob was, the grubs seemed to find him, lift him up by his ankles, deposit him into the nearest skip. Well, that was what Bob said he wanted. Joe had missed Bob, but this wasn't good timing. Right now he was talking to the prettiest girl in the school, maybe even the prettiest girl in the whole of the local area. I know we haven't seen each other in a while, but, well, I've been thinking about what we said during litter duty, stammered Bob. Yeah? Bob seemed a little taken aback by Joe's impatient tone, but pressed on. Well, I'm sorry we fell out, and I'd like us to be friends again. You could move your desk back so that... Do you mind if I talk to you later, Bob? Said Joe. I'm quite busy right now. But, began Bob, a wounded expression on his face. Joe ignored it. I'll see you around, he said. Bob marched off ahead. Who was that? A friend of yours? Inquired Lauren. No. He's not my friend, replied Joe. Bob's his name. But he's so fat everyone calls him Blob. Lauren laughed again. Joe felt a tiny bit sick. But he was pleased he was making the pretty new girl laugh that He pushed the feeling all the way down inside of him. For the duration of the maths class, Lauren kept on looking over at Joe. It put him right off at his algebra. In history, she was definitely gazing in his direction too. As Miss Spite droned on and on about the French Revolution, Joe started to daydream about kissing Lauren. She was so pretty that Joe wanted to kiss her more than anything. However, being only 12, Joe had never kissed a girl before, and had no idea how to make it happen. And the name of the king in France in 1789 was? Spud? Yes, miss? Joe stared at Miss Spite, horrified. He hadn't been listening at all. I asked you a question, boy. You haven't been paying attention, have you? Do you want to pass your exam? Yes, miss. I was listening, stammered Joe. What is the answer then, boy? Demanded Miss Spite. Who was the king of France in 1789? Joe had no idea. He was pretty sure it wasn't King Kevin II or King Cred V or King Trevor the Great, because kings don't tend to have names like that. I am waiting, pronounced Miss Spite. The bell rang. I'm saved, thought Joe. The bell is a signal for me, not you, pronounced Miss Spite. Of course she was going to say that. She lived to say that. Probably be written on a tombstone. Lauren was sitting somewhere near Spite and was standing, so she suddenly waved at Joe to get his attention. He was confused for a moment, then realised she was trying to help him by miming the answer. First she acted out someone going to the bathroom. King Toilet the, offered Joe. The class burst out laughing. Lauren shook her head. Joe had another try. King Lavatory? They laughed again. King Bog. They even laughed harder this time. King Louis the yes boy? Miss Spite continued her interrogation. Behind her, Lauren mimed number with her fingers. King Louis the 10th, the 15th, 16th. King Louis the 16th, declared Joe. Lauren minded a little clap. That's right, Spud, said a suspicious Miss Spite, before turning to the board and writing it on. King Louis the 16th. Stepping out into the spring sunshine, Joe turned to Lauren. You totally saved my butt in there. That's okay. I like you, she smiled. Really? Asked Joe. Yes. Well, then I wondered if Joe stumbled over his words. Well, what? You probably wouldn't. In fact, you definitely wouldn't. Why would you? You're so pretty and I'm just a big lump. But the words were spiraling out of his mouth in all directions now, and Joe was beginning to blush fiercely with embarrassment. Well, if you wanted to, Lauren took over speaking for a bit. If I wanted to go for a walk in the park after school and maybe grab a nice lolly? Yes, I would love to. Really? Joe was incredulous. Yeah, really. With me. Yes, with you, Joe Potato. Joe was 100 times happier she could even remember. It doesn't even matter that Lauren thought his last name was Potato. That's the end of this chapter, guys. If you enjoyed, please do not forget to like and subscribe. And comment down below which book I should read after this one. See you guys in the next chapter. Bye-bye.